Hi, Donaldson and myself are going to give you some top training tips in this video. You can also use these tips when things aren't going the way that you planned. So the first step in dog training is to focus on what is it that you want your dog to do. If you're not sure of this, then imagine how confused your dog must feel. This could be something as simple as sitting. If you'd like your dog to sit when asked, then you're going to focus on the behavior of sit. However, you can also use this approach to tackle problem behaviors that you don't want. Instead of focusing on the negative, ask yourself, what is it that I want my dog to do instead? What do I want my dog to do instead of jumping up? Or what do I want my dog to do instead of trying to steal food from my dinner bowl? So let's use these two examples to show you how you can take this approach to dog training to change the way that you teach your dog. For our first example, we will focus on trying to stop the problem behavior of the dog trying to take food out of our plate when we are having dinner. To help us with this, Buffy, a beautiful chow, is going to help be our actor. So our focus is, what do we want Buffy to do instead of jumping all over us? So here, Jean's decided that she would like Buffy to lie on a mat. Notice how we do not use labels to describe what we want the dog to do. So in this example, we don't say we want Buffy to be good or well behaved. We simply describe the behavior we want, which is to lie on a mat. Now, in order for this to work, we have to follow a few simple steps. Step 1. We need to set the dog up for success. To do this, you'll see that Jean does two things. The first, she manages the situation. The aim of managing is to prevent the dog from practicing the behavior that we do not want. In this example, Jean places Buffy on a lead and ties her down, so she cannot practice the behavior of jumping on our laps while we're having dinner. Alternatively, you could place the dog in a different room or behind a baby gate, maybe even in their crate. You can also make this a positive experience by giving them something to do, so they can be given part of their dinner, or they can be given a chew to work on. The second thing you'll see Jean do is teach Buffy the skills that she will need to be successful at this task. In this example, Buffy will need to lie on a mat and stay there, while Jean moves around and sits down. So she's going to teach Buffy to do this without having a plate of food around. Step 2 in this program is all about pointing out the positive. We want to look for the opportunities to tell Buffy that the behavior that she's doing, which is the behavior we want, is worthwhile and she can get paid for doing this behavior. This gives her a reason to want to do this behavior again.
What a very good book. Oh, thank you, Jackie. That's very good. So good.
Step 3 is what you do when it doesn't work or it goes wrong. Here, the goal is to refocus. So if the dog gets up, then we refocus on asking the dog to lie back down. So you can see that if Buffy gets up, Jean simply reminds Buffy what she'd like her to do. And she does this in a friendly, polite way. Buffy remembers and lies back down. Jean then waits for a few seconds and then reinforces Buffy for lying on her mat. Notice she doesn't give Buffy a treat straight away, because otherwise she could be teaching Buffy that every time she gets up and lies back down again, Jean will give her a treat. Jean wants to reinforce the behavior of Buffy staying on a mat, so she will only give the treat if Buffy stays in position for a few seconds. So let's go over this one more time, but using a different example. This time we'll use the example of jumping up at someone when they come through the front door. So do you remember what you need to do first? Yes, that's correct. What we need to do is think of our focus. Our focus in this situation is going to be asking Buffy to sit. If she's sitting, she can't be jumping up. So that solves that problem. Remember, describe what you want in terms of what you're going to see your dog doing, not being. Remember, don't use the labels. So we've decided what our focus will be. Now we need to set the dog up for success. Here, Jean decides to manage the situation by placing Buffy on lead. This way, Buffy can't practice the behaviour of jumping up. Don't forget that part of setting your dog up for success is teaching them the skill that they're going to need to know. Here, Buffy needs to know how to sit and keep her bottom on the floor while someone touches her. So Jean teaches Buffy this skill without any visitors being there. This means Buffy's most likely to succeed and learn the skill more easily. Then she can start adding in strangers and visitors and teach Buffy to keep her bottom on the floor when they touch her or say hello to her too. Next, Jean's going to focus on pointing to the positive. She's going to pay Buffy for keeping her bottom on the floor when she's greeting people. This way Buffy learns that that's the best behaviour to do in this situation, and that's the behaviour that pays. Bob Bailey will often say, "Make it worthwhile for the animals to play our silly games." Finally, we may need to refocus. If the dog does the behaviour that you don't want them to do, then simply refocus them. Here you can see that if Buffy gets up or jumps up, then Jean simply asks Buffy to sit. She reminds Buffy what she wants Buffy to do. She's focusing on the positive rather than the negative. She then pays Buffy for keeping her bottom on the floor.